Over the past weekend, I was lucky enough to go hands-on with the Nintendo Switch 2 and a ton of games releasing for it. And I thought going into it that Mario Kart World or Donkey Kong Bonanza would be the games of the event for me, the games I would come out on the other end most excited for. However, it was neither of those. It was a game that I have been a little critical of in its showings in the past couple of weeks and even last year, but the game that blew me away the most at the Nintendo Switch 2 event was, without a doubt, it's not even close, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. So today we're going to be looking at my gameplay footage from the event. I think it's about 15 minutes long. We'll be talking about my experience with the game, my experience with the mouse con controls, because I did use the mouse controls for this game. And yeah, we're just going to talk about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond because I am really blown away by this game in a way I wasn't expecting. Of course, if you are new here and you enjoy Metroid Prime content, but also Nintendo Switch 2 coverage, I would appreciate you subscribing. Let's get into it. Okay, so the demo that they had us playing was the same one that they showed off on the Treehouse. It's also what we saw of the game back in June of 2024. And I will say right now, apologies for like the camera quality. It is not doing this game the justice it deserves. The demo we were playing was running at 1080p, but 120 FPS. And playing a Nintendo game, playing Metroid Prime 4 at 120 FPS, changed my life. Not to oversell it, but it feels so good, especially with the mouse controls. I have talked in videos in the past about how I'm a little bit skeptical of the mouse con, even though I think it's a really great idea. I just wasn't sure exactly how it would work, how it would feel, and I am very happy to say that it is so buttery smooth, and I mean, just, you can kind of see my movements. I'm clearly moving as if I were playing like on a PC or something. It just feels so good. It makes the combat feel even snappier than if you were using the Wii motion in the other games. I mean, God forbid I would have to go back to the control sticks at this point. I really don't think I could. But even the motion controls, I don't want to go back to that either. Mouse controls are genuinely a game changer for a game like Metroid Prime. And it's funny because it's not like a new idea. Oh, you can play a Nintendo game with a mouse. I mean, you can play Prime Hack on PC and do the same thing. For me, it's the novelty of it being built in to the Joy-Con. Every Nintendo Switch 2 unit that you buy will have this function in there. You can plug a PC mouse and a keyboard into your PS5 right now. I think some games even might support that on the current Nintendo Switch, but having it available for every single person who owns a Switch 2 is a game changer. That is what makes this console different, and that is what makes me so excited in terms of like the Nintendo gimmick side of things. Mouse controls aren't unique, but having it in there for everybody, that is unique, and the mouse controls in this game feel incredible. You'll see it later in the footage. There actually is sensitivity settings, so while it might not matter too much for a game like Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, being able to jack up your sensitivity and go way faster with your controls is something I'm very excited to see, not just for speedruns. I assume Metroid Prime 4 speedruns will also use this, but also like for Call of Duty or something, or even Splatoon or Fortnite, games like these. I'm excited to see, let's say, pro Nintendo players playing with the mouse controls. I actually worry what might happen. Let's say Call of Duty is crossplay, right? Yeah, you can plug a keyboard into the PS5 version, but most people aren't going to do that. So honestly, even though it will likely be running at, a lower frame rate and everything on the Switch 2 version of Call of Duty, I feel like cross-play players on Switch 2 will have an advantage just because of the control options. And then, yeah, once again, I know my iPhone camera footage isn't doing it the justice it deserves. This game is beautiful. Having a first-party Nintendo game looking like this, running in 120 FPS, it feels unreal. It feels unbelievable. It felt very weird having the Nintendo rep explaining the game to me at my shoulder saying, yes, this is our first 120 FPS title. Very strange stuff, but very exciting. And as you can see, throughout the gameplay demo, I try to scan as much stuff, hopefully for any lore, Metroid Prime lore fans out there. I scanned something interesting that no one else has seen before, and you can get some exclusive lore from this video. But if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I love 2D Metroid. Metroid Dread, one of my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch. Metroid Fusion, one of my favorite games of all time. 2D Metroid is my thing. However, Metroid Prime is a series that I really personally have not felt connected to in the way that I know a lot of other fans do. And I've been hoping that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond will kind of speed up the game a little bit and make it feel a little bit more like a 2D Metroid, in that when I play 2D Metroid games, I play them extremely fast. Now, it's hard to tell if this is just because it's the opening area, they want to have these action set pieces, but I genuinely think that because of the mouse controls, Metroid Prime has instantly become a series that is made more for me because I can play it way faster. I am not necessarily about the very slow paced Metroid Prime, scanning the environments and taking your time doing puzzles. That's not necessarily what I like about Metroid. I like fast Metroid. I like playing through the 2D Metroid games very quickly, and because of the mouse controls and because of how much faster I can move around and aim in this game, it makes it feel like a different Metroid experience, even though it still is clearly Metroid Prime. You can play it slow if you want. If you want to take your time and scan everything and, you know, have the basic lock on that we've had in the past, you can still do that. But for me, what I was really hoping for from Metroid Prime 4 was a way to play the game faster. We saw in the trailer last week at the Nintendo Direct that there's a backdash. I don't think I could do that in this demo, but I was really hoping just for more ways to speed up the combat and speed up the game flow of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and literally just having the mouse controls completely changes the way this game feels and the way it plays, in nothing but a positive way. I'm so genuinely surprised and happy with how the mouse controls feel. I'm excited to see that there are sensitivity options. You know, it's Nintendo. I felt like it might be one of those things where they're like, oh, it is what it is, but there are options in there, and it just feels really good to play while maintaining that Metroid Prime charm that I know a lot of people will be happy to see return here. Here you can see I'm doing some morph ball action going through this little tunnel here. You can see all the space pirates down there setting up to fight against the Galactic Federation. Very cool action set PC stuff. I'm curious how much of the game will feel like this, because this is the opening of the game, right? I wonder how many moments like this there really will be. This is before Samus gets to Vuros. I believe that's the name of the new planet, but I found an energy tank there. So yeah, I'm just curious to see like how many action set pieces this game will have. There is also voice acting worth noting. There is all that text popping up on the bottom of the screen, which is pretty cool. And yeah, just taking out these space pirates with some charge beam action. For a second here, I was trying to see if you could do the like the jumping, where you have a bunch of power bombs and you kind of just get more and more heights. Didn't manage to figure it out. I'm not sure if you can. You do have this morph ball dash you can do. I was wondering if it would feel weird because I'm still in mouse mode at that point, but it all still feels very natural. And even if you wanted to like lift up the Joy-Con for a section that doesn't have you moving the camera around, you know, it just takes half a second to put it back down on the table or on your leg. I did test that out, not with this game, but with Dragon Drive, and the mouse controls actually do work really well on your legs or on your thighs. So if you don't have a desk that you play at, if you're just playing, let's say, in a recliner in your living room or on your couch, you can play with the mouse controls on your legs, and Nintendo did not lie. It actually does work very well. Maybe not quite as accurate, maybe not quite as well as if you were on a flat desk with, you know, the optimal circumstances of having a mouse pad and all that, but it actually does work shockingly well, even on like your clothes, right? Now, pretty much for the remainder of this demo is the boss fight. I watched the Treehouse live demo before I went to New York, and I thought, man, what is this guy doing? This boss fight's taking way too long. Surely this dude just sucks at the game who was playing it on Treehouse. And after you get this cutscene, you'll see this is a very long boss. In fact, this is really the only negative thing I have to say about the demo. This boss is a bullet sponge, dude. He has way too much health. It takes way too long. I'm not really sure what happened here because it's also just not that engaging. He gets taken over by this Metroid, and he has these Metroid weak spots on his body. He'll block against them. He'll have this like yellow glow. You can't shoot it when that happens. You need to make sure that it actually looks like a Metroid when you're shooting it. And it just takes an extremely, extremely long time. I really don't know why they gave this boss so much health. I hope they change it by the time the game releases, because it was just getting kind of boring. He'll do these like shockwave attacks that you have to dodge or, you know, turn into a morph ball Samus to avoid, but it's just kind of boring. But once again, to talk about MouseCon even more, a boss like this becomes way easier when you have so much more control of where you are aiming. Even though it took a long time, that's just because, you know, you have to wait for him to, you know, show his Metroid weak spot. But being able to aim immediately at a weak spot for a boss like this, it just feels very good. But yeah, only negative thought from this demo was just how much help this guy has. It takes forever for me to actually take him down. Locking on while strafing around to avoid his attacks while still using the mouse mode also felt very natural. Basically, if you have one takeaway from this video, it is that I was very happy with MouseCon in basically every aspect. There was really no part of it where I was like, oh, this feels kind of weird. This feels a little unnatural. It immediately worked. I mean, this is the first game I used it with, but you know, you have your right Joy-Con with the SL and SR buttons face down on a desk or on your leg or whatever, and you're just shooting with the R and ZR buttons, and it feels so good. And once again, I just really really hope that other Nintendo games use it in such a way, because you know, usually when you're trying a new control method, it's going to feel a little finicky at first. It just felt so natural immediately jumping into this game with these controls that honestly, like, we're talking about a Prime 2 or 3 remaster. I'm almost a little bit happy that it didn't happen, because then we wouldn't have mouse controls. I hope if we ever get those, they do a native Switch 2 version. Maybe they go back and release a Switch 2 edition of Prime Remastered, because I want mouse controls in those games. It really adds so much of the experience, and I'm just really happy with how this game is turning out, even though, like I mentioned, I've been skeptical of it because I don't love Prime 1 and 2 or 3. Like, they're not games that are necessarily for me as a 2D Metroid fan, but the mouse controls, dude, they're really stepping up their game here. But also just visually, I know people don't play Nintendo games for the visuals, but this is a breathtaking video game. I highly recommend you go to Nintendo's YouTube channel and watch the Treehouse demo from them, where it was streamed in 4K. You have that direct feed capture, because it looks really good. I think there's going to be a 4K 60 option. Even with there being the 1080 120 option, I'll probably do 4K 60. The difference between 60 FPS and 120 FPS, to me, like, I can tell, like, okay, this is buttery smooth. It's even smoother than 60. But I'd rather have the 4K resolution on top of that, right? But it's still really cool to see, like, you know, options like this in a Nintendo game. We're having our fidelity mode and our performance mode in a first-party Nintendo game. It's just very weird to see. I really wish that this demo had been this first section, but then even more. I'm greedy. I wish I had played more, but I wanted to see how the psychic abilities feel with the mouse comm, because they showed in the direct back in at the end of March that not only can you like use it to draw outlines around certain objects on the walls and solve puzzles that way, but there's also this like homing shot where you can shoot from your beam and then kind of control it. I'm really curious to see how that stuff will feel with the mouse controls. It's interesting. I mean, this is a Switch 1 game, but it feels like it was designed completely in tandem with this new control method, which is just so exciting. And I'm excited to see how the psychic stuff works. I'm excited to see what other, you know, gameplay gimmicks they have here, because I do think that there's still a lot they haven't shown in Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I just think it's a game Nintendo doesn't really know how to show very well, because that psychic ability trailer I didn't think was very good. And what we're seeing here with this demo is just more of what we saw in the reveal trailer back in June of last year. So I'm kind of perplexed by their marketing so far. I'm glad it has a Switch 2 edition, and I'm glad that it does have these incredible mouse controls. Here we see this awesome cutscene with Silux and Samus having a stare down from that reveal trailer, but it's a little bit extended here. If you haven't seen this yet, this is how that trailer kind of goes before the demo eventually ends. Also, you can see some Mario Party being played in the reflection here. But yeah, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond's a game that, like, I was excited for. I was excited for Metroid Prime fans also, and also just a game I was excited to see how it would, like, change the franchise. Hopefully it is a bigger deal. It does propel the series to new heights. I'm not necessarily expecting it to be, like, a huge sales success like I maybe was hoping when I thought it might be a launch title for the console, but it is a game I personally, just on a pure gameplay level, am more excited to play now than I ever have been, and I can't wait to see when it actually releases. We still don't have a release date. They say 2025. I'm assuming holiday. So that is going to do it for my Metroid Prime 4 Beyond preview. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Just once again, to really reiterate it, the mouse controls are incredible. Not necessarily just a thing for Prime 4, that's more of just an overall observation for the Nintendo Switch 2 itself, but having them in Metroid Prime 4 Beyond has me so excited for the future of Metroid Prime, but also the future of games like Splatoon, or even third-party stuff like Fortnite or Call of Duty on this platform. It's just going to be a lot of fun. So let me know your thoughts. Of course, subscribe here for more Metroid Prime content, but also Nintendo Switch 2 coverage. I have done a lot of other previews. I did a whole overall video on the event itself, as well as a dedicated Mario Kart World video. I will have a video on a DK Bonanza coming up here in the near future, as well as Dragon Drive, if there's any Dragon Drive fans out there. You can follow me on Twitter at BotoxGames, check out my other YouTube channel at It's Amiibo, and click on one of these two videos to listen to me ramble even more about Nintendo. Until next time, folks, peace!